Hello, this is Robert welcoming you to this brief presentation about the 2018-2019 Roswell High School Faculty and Staff Employee Handbook. A couple of notes. I'm going to go through this very quickly just to point out some highlights as I would if we were having a meeting. But the good news is we're not having a meeting. You can certainly review this at your own time. And again, it is a companion piece to the actual handbook, so please take the time to go through the written document and make sure you're familiar with the policies and procedures that are in place, not just at our school, but in our district. When you've completed this, if you would go ahead and sign off. All the adults in the building do need to sign off that they have viewed this. And again, this is simply a way to save some time by presenting it to you in this format, and we will go from there. The last note is I'm doing this in one take, regardless of how bad it is. Attendance, very simply, a couple of notes. We need all of you here every day that you can be. Please make sure that you do enter your absences according to what you need to do. Also, most importantly, let your supervisor know. One thing this year for safety purposes I'm asking you to do is if you leave the campus during the day, please make sure your immediate supervisor knows. You do not have to sign in or sign out, but in the event of an emergency, first responders will be looking for you, so it's helpful to know if you do leave campus. One of the things we excel at Roswell High School is taking care of our students, especially those who are experiencing a medical emergency. Again, briefly, please make sure that if there's a medical emergency, you immediately contact the front office and/or the clinic. Also, please make sure that the student who is suffering the medical emergency is safe. Finally, if you can, without jeopardizing the students who is experiencing the medical emergency, please remove the other students from the classroom or the immediate area. That's to make sure that first responders can get to the student who may need some help. State law says that we have to give students an opportunity to recognize the moment of silence and participate in the pledge if they wish. Remember, we can't make them, but those students who do wish to participate have a right to do it in a quiet and respectful manner. So please assist us with this, including common areas. Activities should stop, conversations should stop, and students and teachers who wish to participate should have the ability to do so. Something we're going to be sure to reinforce this year, so thank you for your help with that. Of course, as we continue to focus on school safety, please make sure that people who are visiting you are signed in. We should not have visitors during the school day. We know that our Hornets love to come back and visit our faculty and staff, but please make sure they do so when it doesn't interrupt your job during the day. Also, while I'm on this slide, please make sure that you challenge anybody who you do not recognize in the building. Okay, this is a good time to remind you that in the unlikely, but it has happened, event that Fulton County Schools or Roswell High School has to dismiss early in an emergency, faculty and staff are not allowed to leave until dismissed by the administration. The reason for this is simple. If we have to take care of students like we had to do for Snowpocalypse a few years ago, we need faculty and staff here to do it. It's also a good time to remind you that when you're at school, your priority is the students entrusted to us by their parents for their health and safety at school. So please make sure you have a plan for your kids if you can't get to them in the unlikely, but it has happened, event that you need to stay at school to take care of our Hornets. Thanks for understanding. Code of Ethics, please review it. I will briefly say that all of us are held to the Code of Ethics all the time. It's not something that just occurs at work. So while this link won't work on the video, there's a number of ways you can review the Code of Ethics for educators, and I encourage you to do so. Part of our responsibility of taking care of our students includes respecting their right to privacy. So a good rule of thumb is this: if somebody doesn't have a need or a right to know anything about your student, personal information, academic information, etc., quite simply, don't discuss it with them. It really is that simple. Duties and responsibilities. Again, this is just a brief presentation, so I will say it's not unlike what we tell our students. Be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and do what you're supposed to do when you are there. I do want to mention on this slide, we've added some expectations for study hall. I think for our staff and our students, it is a unique opportunity to have PLC time built into the day. A lot of schools, teachers are assigned their PLCs before or after school. We also have a chance during the day for our kids to catch up, do some homework. So please make sure that you are supervising and running your study hall. Also, another thing that has come up is please make sure you only send your students to hour lunch when it is their assigned hour lunch. And again, supervision, this is true for all of our faculty and staff. Please make sure students are always supervised in the building. Drug-free workplace, all faculty and staff, goes without saying, don't use drugs. Also, for all faculty and staff, please make sure that your workroom or office space is secured. Please make sure valuables are kept out of sight. For teachers, this is unique to you here, but dead time students should not be allowed in and out of class during the first 10 minutes. Please make sure you just keep your workspace or your classroom or the media center or cafeteria or wherever you are as neat and safe as possible. Can't do food orders during the day. I think we know that. We are going to pay careful attention, faculty and staff, to parents that are dropping off food and other items for students outside, as it does present a safety issue. If you see a young lady or young man running outside to meet mom or dad to get their lunch or their lacrosse sticks, please tell them they can't do that. Any concerns at all, let an administrator know. But thanks for your help with this. It's a big building. Safety is our first concern, and we need to monitor a lot of this during the day. School are leaders, and part of leadership is listening. So if you have any concerns at all, please share it with your immediate supervisor, your administrator, or me. I do have a Principals Advisory Council, great group last year. We'll have that again this year with different members, but I encourage you to share your concerns with them. And lastly, of course, and it'll be mentioned later, the district does have a fraud, waste, and abuse hotline that if you feel that your concerns are falling on deaf ears of the local school, you have the ability to use that as well. But let us know. A lot of problems can be solved mainly with some good, effective communication. And we want to do everything we can to make that happen. Thanks. Pretty simple on this one. Park where you're supposed to park. Please make sure your hang tag is visible. If a student or somebody else is in your space, let Karen know in the front office or one of our campus officers or an administrator, and we will handle it. I did put on here on-campus construction because, as you will learn during pre-planning, there is some construction planned for our campus, so please be flexible on that. Under federal and state law, you have certain rights. These posters are displayed throughout the building. I've also provided the links here and in the employee handbook if you wish to review this information. It is important that you are aware of your rights as an employee and in the workplace. We want to make sure everybody at Roswell High School is safe and respected. Faculty, staff, students, parents, visitors. If you feel that you have been the victim of any form of sexual harassment or sexual misconduct, please immediately report it. And I can assure you that all concerns will be taken seriously. Use going to slow it down just a little bit. Lots of things going on here in our building, pretty much 24 hours a day, almost 6 days a week, sometimes 7. Hey, please make sure you check with Mr. Zarzana, our administrator, before you schedule an event, especially if that event is after hours or on the weekend. We need to make sure that we have the staff to support you. Not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying there are rules and policies and procedures in place, and especially on this, it is better to ask permission first than apologize later. And of course, supervision, heating and air conditioning, access to the building, alarm, all of that is taken into consideration when you schedule something in our building. All right, financial procedures. I'm going to hit the highlights on this real quick. Do not keep money in your room. Do not collect booster fees during the school day. Please make sure that anytime you take a dime from a student, it is accounted for, whether it's through a receipt book, writing a name down, or giving that student a ticket. Fundraisers must be approved by the administration. This is whether they're booster club fundraisers, school fundraisers, and fundraisers just doesn't mean when you're collecting money. It's anytime you're buying or selling anything that needs to be approved by us, again, and make sure it's all within the rules to keep us all safe and to keep our students and our communities safe as well. No fundraising can occur during the school day. Not an issue, but it's worth mentioning that you can't stop your class to sell Yankee candles or some other fundraising item. And of course, this should be noted, no raffles and no cash. You can't give cash to students. Students should never go door to door selling items. Participation in any fundraiser has to be voluntary. There is no pay to play at Roswell High School, so you can't tell a student that if you don't participate in a fundraiser, you can't participate in an activity. And also, all fundraisers must end within the same school year. Do not keep money in your room. Do not, including checks. Don't take them home. Don't take any money home. Don't put any money in your car. For those of you who may not know, we have a safe in the mailroom. If you are after hours or you're on the weekend and you can't find anybody to take your money, wrap it in an envelope or in a rubber band, write what it is, drop it in that safe, and everybody's fine. Okay, I pretty much covered everything on this slide, but this is a good time to remind you to please make sure that you're very careful when handling money. Follow all rules and regulations and procedures. Ask for help. Good people have gotten in trouble making mistakes with money, so we want to avoid that. Thanks for your help with this. It is really, really important. Mentioned it earlier. There is a hotline. There is a website. Please make sure you have any concerns or questions, you report it immediately. There's board policy about taking gifts, and sometimes it's very easy when a parent appreciates what you do and they want to give you a gift. There are rules that come with that are in board policy. When you have a second, and it's linked in our PDF of our handbook, please check that out and make sure that you understand the rules on accepting gifts. Again, our most important aspect to our jobs as educators is to keep people safe, especially our students. So while Ms. Rogers, our outstanding social worker, will go through this with you during pre-planning, it's also important to note how important it is to report child abuse or suspected child abuse. Hey, a couple things very quickly. It is not our job to investigate. So please, once you have the information, there's some clarifying questions that you need to ask, but then turn it over to DFACS through the web reporting, through an email, or through calling. I like to call because that way I know it's reported and I get the name of somebody that I have talked to. Also remember that you have 24 hours under Georgia state law to report abuse. That is not school hours. So if you get a call from a student or an email from a student on Saturday morning, you have to report it. You can't wait until Monday. But this is so important. And again, it's something that is a responsibility of all of us as professionals who are trusted in working with students. Okay, again, there's a lot of information I encourage you to read and become familiar with in regards to using our network, our online services. Remember, just like any other network in the world, and it's in the news all the time, Fulton County Schools network also can be and is a target for hackers. So it's important that you follow all the rules. A couple things very quickly. Be careful what you post online. We are going to talk about this because professionals are getting in trouble with their use of social media. Also, please keep in mind that anything you do is public. So any emails you send through your fultonschools.org address, any sites you visit, it's all public information because this network is provided and the resources on it are provided by the taxpayers, so the taxpayers can access it. Again, read through this on your own. This is something we will hit again during pre-planning. So we need to be responsive to our community, but we're not going to be abused. So if you get an email that does anything like this, and again, I encourage you to look at this in its written format, please let an administrator know. Do not get into back and forth with parents or anybody else over email. What I tend to do is use the rule of thumb is after 2 emails, let's go ahead and either talk on the phone or schedule a conference. But again, look through this and please ask for help if needed. This relates to our professional and classified staff about their workday. Please keep in mind that you do have a scheduled workday, and just like for certified staff or salaried staff, if you have a concern or question, please let your administrator or immediate supervisor know. Safety is in the news, and of course we know that with recent school shootings and other events that this is something that we need to continue to pay attention to. Please read through this again. A lot of us went through the training last year. There will be more training next year. What to do in an active shooter situation is something that has been shared and will be shared again. But remember, run, hide, and fight. Please also remember, one of the things that's scary about a lot of our safety situations is that none of them are the same, and you have to be able to be flexible and think on your feet. If you haven't done so already, please sign up for my Remind 101. This is how I get information out to your cell phone if you can't check your email. Also, one more thing to note is when we are having safety drills, for example, an evacuation drill, otherwise known as a fire drill, you go out, you're with your kids, you bring them back in, they cannot have their headphones in. Please make sure you support us with that. Again, this is also including staff that may be assisting with drills. Please tell the kids to put their headphones up. Most of the time they do, but they need to be aware of their surroundings in the event of an actual emergency. Hey, right, what do theater people say? Practice like you perform. Okay, so if you're not our teacher, you are done. I still encourage you to read through the handbook, but for those people who are teachers, special ed personnel, our grad coach, etc., please continue on, and again, trying to get through this as quickly as possible. Academic integrity, this of course goes to the value of those grades and the value of that diploma that students get. If you suspect cheating, please handle it. You can, of course, if it rises to the level of an administrative referral, please do so, and we will assist you. Again, I encourage you to read through this section in the handbook. Some of this is new, and the administrative team developed this for your information and, of course, so we can support you. And again, this goes to some of the sanctions. I do want to point out that members of competitive organizations may be suspended. This is our athletes, our robotics, our band. We are saying this year that we may have some consequences that go to whether or not students participate in their extracurricular events. So again, if you have questions, get some help. Academic integrity is important. Most important is we want to teach our kids before they leave us and go to the workplace or the college that there are serious repercussions when you cheat or take somebody else's work without their permission and pass it off as your own. To get the advisement dates out to you as soon as possible, so we have those. We will share them with you. They may change, but we do this for planning purposes. Please take advisement seriously. It is a real problem when we are supposed to distribute material and some students don't get that material. If you're out on an advisement day, let your sub know, let your department chair know, let your administrator know. That way we can make sure that whatever needs to be done during the advisement period is done. Communication, it is in our strategic plan, is at the heart of what we do. Very quickly, emails and phone calls from people must be returned within 24 business hours. I would encourage you to keep a communication log so you can document communications. Remember, if it isn't documented, it isn't done. If you have concerns about a student, please contact an administrator or a counselor. Academic concerns, safety concerns, and document that contact. Email is pretty good for documenting contact, and I tend to use it for that purpose as well. Also, share good news with parents. Nothing goes as far as calling a parent to say, hey, your kid is doing a great job, and cite an example of something great that they've done. As a parent myself, I can tell you good news is always welcome. The process of teaching students, there may be issues or concerns brought up that could be deemed controversial. I would encourage you to talk through this with your colleagues and your department chairs. Review board policy on this. Basically what it says is that parents do have a right to opt their students out of certain activities. So again, in this brief presentation, I can't go through all of it, but I would encourage you to visit board policy. And again, like so many things, this is something that we do a really good job with at Roswell, so keep it up. Thanks. Field trips have to be approved, of course, by the administration. Hey, no field trips after spring break. That's not new, but a lot of that is based on testing. Also, something we have to do a little bit better is when you're taking kids on field trips, they may have medical needs. You have to give the clinic a heads up so they can take care of medication. There's certain procedures and policies they need to follow to make sure the students on the field trip have access to their medication, especially with controlled substances. So let the clinic know at least 1 week before you leave. That is important. Got to do that. Thanks. You get this information a lot, not going to harp on it, but please make sure that you follow all procedures for final exams. Also make sure that you do not give final exams early. Concern or question, let an administrator know. Grading, you can read this. I am going to reiterate something that I have said and will say again. Grades should reflect student knowledge. They shouldn't reflect behavior. So what does that mean? There cannot be grades for turning in a syllabus, for being quiet in class. If you come to class on time, you get extra credit points. Can't do that. Not a fan of extra credit myself, but anything you do must relate to the curriculum, must relate to the standards. If you have any questions, please let me know. Continuing on, please make sure that you have planned your course out, working with your PLC, if applicable. Online grade books must be updated at every other week at a minimum. And remember, this year we're going to do progress reports more frequently. We're going to update them more frequently, which will assist our parents and students in knowing how they're doing in your class. And communicate, right? Communicate with students and parents about how they're doing in your class. You do such a great job with this. So many folks have so many ways of keeping parents and students informed. Again, as this relates to school safety, please make sure you give your students a pass when they leave your class. We do not have, and I hope we don't have to ever do, a school-wide pass form or something to that effect, but when a student leaves your room, they should have a piece of documentation that states where they're going, what time they left. This is especially important when it comes time to discipline students for skipping. We need some documentation about when they've left class. Thanks for your help. Lesson plans are essential at Roswell. More information about this. Nothing has changed. Lesson plans are based on a format decided by your PLC or your department. This does say that they need to be posted or submitted. You will get information just like last year, same thing. I'm putting those lesson plans in a OneNote so they can be reviewed. But again, nothing new here. I think that the Roswell High School faculty and staff have done an amazing job with our PLCs, and thank you for the work you're doing to make these useful. It is so important that you have a chance to collaborate, and we're going to talk a lot more about this during pre-planning. Okay, so religious holidays are considered excused. I would encourage you to become familiar with religious holidays. Being such a diverse school as Roswell is, we have students of many different faiths and faith systems. So please make sure, especially if you are involved with an activity that meets after school or on the weekends, be aware of religious holidays and respect and handle those according to policy. We are going to do a hard rollout this year. We've done a soft rollout, but a hard rollout of our logos and branding. And this year, Miss Nitskin, will continue to be our brand manager. It is important that we protect our brand. This is how we are represented to the community. So again, more information about this. But if you have any questions about the use of our logo, our word mark, our trademarks, please let us know. Thanks for your help with this. Again, like everything else in this presentation, you can read this on your own. But let me say that you are the person in your classroom or your space who sets the tone for that. And it is very important that students understand your expectations and act accordingly. Please communicate with parents at the first sign of a problem. Parents do get frustrated when you call them in December and say, Johnny's been acting up since September. Our parents are supportive of us and they want their children to be successful. It really helps to let them know ahead of time. Emergency button real quick, please. I just want to make a quick note. This is truly for emergencies, a medical emergency, a fight. This is not for somebody not putting up their cell phone, to be honest with you. When that button is pushed, the administrators and campus officers literally come running. So that button really is truly for a classroom emergency. Thanks. Very quickly, ISS. If we ask for help to get work to ISS, please help us with that. Remember, only administrators can assign ISS. You should not send students to the ISS room. When you complete a referral, a couple things very quickly. Please make sure you complete all the lines. Remember, this referral does get seen by the student and the parent, and sometimes even district officials if it goes to a hearing or higher ups. So make sure that you do not put your opinion on there, and make sure you only write what you saw. Sometimes, especially if we're frustrated, we tend to write other things, but as they used to say on the old TV show, only the facts. In regards to out-of-school suspension, no administrator likes to assign out-of-school suspension, but it is a consequence that we use in an attempt to influence behavior. We have had some issues where teachers are discussing OSS in class, particularly saying this student got OSS or that student got ISS. Please don't do that. It's a privacy concern. It also can negatively impact the culture of your classroom. So if a student in your classroom has OSS or ISS, as we used to say in the Army, just drive on. Friday school is something we continue to do for minor offenses. Again, OSS, ISS, Friday school, public detention, those are only assigned by administrators. But if you have any questions, please let us know. Substitute folders, not going to go into a lot of detail here. You can read it for your own. This is sometimes a lifeline for your substitute who may be there during the day, so please keep this up to date. Work with your neighbors and your department and your colleagues. Started doing this some last year, but this year we're going to continue to take a look at summer work around February or March. If you plan on giving summer work, your department chair will come and ask you for it. Please give it to them so the leadership team can look at it. Why do we do this? One, we want to make sure the summer work is relevant and meaningful. Two, we also want to look at summer work as a whole. So for example, what are all of our AP 11th graders or honors 10th graders being asked to do, and is it reasonable? Don't want to assign summer work in a vacuum. So thanks for your help with this. So like all public high schools these days, we give a lot of tests. One of the things I noticed last year is so many of our staff members were so willing to jump in and help when we needed people to supervise or count or cover or administrate a test. Thank you so much for being willing to do that. It really is appreciated. Of course, when it comes to testing, please make sure that you are ethical. Please make sure that you take responsibility and very carefully supervise students who are taking tests, and keep account of your testing materials. As it says in here, the issue is not a mistake that is made. Where sometimes we get in trouble is how we handle a mistake. So mistakes are going to happen when you give literally thousands of tests, which we do. But please know that we're here to support you. Ask for help. If there's ever a concern or something doesn't go right, please let your testing administrator know. Video usage, videos must relate to the curriculum. More importantly, if it's an R movie, which are allowed by board policy, those do have to be approved by specifically me. And again, if it's an R movie, I would ask you if you do have to show it, or is it relevant? Sometimes, I'm going to be very candid with you, we tend to put ourselves in situations that we don't need to be in. So when you're selecting a video for class, please make sure it's relevant. Also, something else that has come up is there are certain restrictions. You have a Netflix account, an HBO account. There are rules in place regarding what is shown and how it's broadcast. So please be careful that you're following all the rules regarding showing videos to your classroom or in a public setting. I know that was painful for you to listen to, but again, there was a time in my career where I would either be a teacher or an administrator and would be in one of these meetings that would be held every day to go over the handbook, and quite simply, this is a good way to use some technology and do this without having to sit through a meeting. Hey, but listen, you're done. More importantly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all of you who do what you do at our school every single day for our kids. It is such a personal and professional blessing for me to work at Roswell High School, and I appreciate you. Thanks again for taking time to do this. Have an absolutely fantastic 2018-2019 school year. Thanks.